Now that the Durham Report is out, many are wondering what happens next. The evidence seems to be obvious. The FBI opened a partisan and corrupt investigation into their political opponent, and they did it knowingly with intention. But will there be any consequences for it, or will they just keep getting away with all of this behavior right as 2024 looms? One Republican, Marjorie-Taylor Greene, you see here, has taken action, filed articles of impeachment against the FBI director, Christopher Wray. And so we will take a look at those articles of impeachment. But this comes on the heels of the Durham investigation, where we learned that the FBI, along with the DOJ, were colluding to take out Trump. And so we're asking ourselves, is anybody doing anything about this? Marjorie-Taylor Greene says, I am. Says, I just introduced articles of impeachment against FBI Director Christopher Wray. And under his watch, the FBI has intimidated, harassed, entrapped Americans who have been deemed enemies of the Biden regime. Says Wray, the director of the FBI, has turned the FBI into Joe Biden and Merrick Garland's personal police force. Christopher Wray needs to be impeached. And of course, this is a sentiment we've talked a lot about here, that the FBI has been weaponized to go after certain political opponents, spending all of their time on the J6ers, obsessed with Donald Trump from day one since he came down the elevators, and not focusing on anything else that isn't useful or that has utility for the Democrats and, or I would say, for the anti-conservative, anti-Republican, anti-communist efforts all throughout the country. We've seen it with many plots. The Whitmer plot, what I consider to be the J6 hoax, there was never an insurrection, and many other ordeals, including the Hunter Biden laptop cover-up, and so on and so forth. They're supposed to be providing truth and justice and security for the domestic homeland. They are not doing that. And so what is going to happen, if anything? Well, Senator Hawley was also out after the report, and he explained that there should be prosecutions moving forward. He posted this on his Twitter account. He said Hillary and the Democrats tried to rig the 2016 presidential election, but weren't successful at it, and says there needs to be consequences. And what does that mean? We're always asking, what does that mean? What does it mean? Prosecutions, he says. Somebody being prosecuted. Now, the Republicans are not in charge of the Department of Justice right now. Merrick Garland is. And so is he going to prosecute his own people for being involved in bad conduct? Don't hold your breath.
No, we've got to get justice here, and justice needs to be served. You can't interfere in a presidential election without consequences. At least you couldn't. You used to not be able to in America. And that's what happened here. That's what this report shows. That one political party, the Democrats, tried to use the FBI to rig a presidential election and just about got away with it. They succeeded in getting the FBI to intervene. They succeeded in getting the FBI to lie to a court to get wiretaps. They succeeded in getting a presidential campaign, Donald Trump's campaign, spied on. I mean, it's amazing. If there's something like this in American history, I don't know what it is. And that's why I say there needs to be prosecutions, there needs to be accountability, and the FBI has got to be overhauled now top to bottom. It's got to be completely reformed. It cannot go on like it is.
Prosecutions and total reform for the FBI, which I think is right on the mark. And he's talking about 2016. Of course, Donald Trump won that election in spite of the FBI's best efforts. They were literally colluding with Hillary Clinton's team through Michael Sussman and the rest of the lawyers over there at Perkins Coie, working its way up the chain, back up to Mark Elias to take out Trump. They posted stories on their Twitter timeline from Jake Sullivan. Jake Sullivan is now the national security advisor, all based on the false pretext and the premise of the Steele dossier, none of which was true. So we now have the House in Marjorie-Taylor Greene, who says it's time to impeach. We have Hawley in the Senate, who says it's time for more consequences, political in terms of prosecutions and in terms of removal of the FBI authority in some way, shape, or form. Defunding them, reforming them, Congress taking action to reform the intelligence community. So we've got a little bit of agreement amongst the two houses, which is good news. Now, what about some people in the media? This one slipped through over on CNN. I don't know how they got this one through, but Jake Tapper had a very short moment of clarity and sobriety. Here's what he said about the Durham Report.
Regardless, the report is now here. It has dropped, and it might not have produced everything of what some Republicans hoped for. It is, regardless, devastating to the FBI.
Whoa.
And to a degree, it does exonerate Donald Trump.
Not to a degree there, Jake. Donald Trump is exonerated. Now, the refrain from the other side is, well, Russia, they still tried to connect with him, and that Don Jr. sat down and had the meeting and all of these other things. Stuff that is absolutely trivial, they're latching onto to say that the crux of the investigation was justified when, as the Durham Report revealed, as the Inspector General's report revealed, as we've been talking about here for years now, it had no basis at all. And so to hear that little 12 seconds from Jake is, whew, he probably got a talking to. They had to rewrite the entire teleprompter.
Regardless, the report is now here. It has dropped, and it might not have produced produced everything of what some Republicans hoped for.
Prosecutions,
It is
no.
regardless devastating to
Policy
the FBI,
changes.
and to a degree, it does exonerate Donald Trump.
Obviously, Donald Trump is exonerated. He's been exonerated on this from the beginning. They colluded to spy on his campaign. They were very successful in it. And Jake Tapper says that's devastating to the FBI. Josh Hawley says there needs to be prosecutions. Marjorie-Taylor Greene says there should be impeachments. What does the FBI say about this? They must be panicking in their boots. They must be shaken. Our agency is on the brink. We're going to get toppled any minute now. We're going to make some serious changes. We're going to respond to this. We're going to do better. We're sorry for what we've done, right? That's what they would say, right? No, not at all. They posted this on their official account. Statement on the report by Special Counsel John Durham. Didn't even give us a period. They say the conduct in 2016 and 2017 that Special Counsel Durham examined was the reason that current FBI leadership already implemented dozens of corrected actions, which have now been in place for some time. So leave us alone. Had those reforms been in place in 2016, the missteps identified in the report could have been prevented. Maybe if Trump would have put those reforms in place, all of this would have been avoided or something, even though he wasn't the president. This report reinforces the importance of ensuring the FBI continues to do its work with the rigor, objectivity, and professionalism the American people deserve and rightly expect. In other words, we're not sorry at all. I don't see any contrition or remorse, not an apology. They said, actually, this report is exactly why we need more independence. We need more objectivity. We need to be more powerful so that we can work with more rigor and professionalism. It just supports what we've been saying this whole time. And had the reforms been in place in 2016, none of this would have happened. But we've already fixed everything. We're not sorry about it at all. And so leave us alone. They don't even care. All right, we're done. Stop bothering us with your stupid investigations. We're not changing anything. So after 316 pages, John Durham, we get one snarky paragraph from the FBI. And it's not ending there. This permeates throughout the rest of the agency. This is a clip of Andy McCabe, formerly at the FBI, courtesy of our friend Tom Elliott on Twitter. Great follow. He shared this. Andy McCabe hopped on with CNN to have a conversation with Anderson Cooper, who had hysterical crying fit the other day. And he's back here in light of this damning report that came out from John Durham. 300 plus pages implicating the FBI, implicating this guy, Andy McCabe by name in particular, as being somebody who oversaw a lot of this, where all of the mistakes were made, where the partisan hackery was originating. 300 pages. Andy, do you have anything to say for yourself? I mean, we saw all the allegations about you and Strzok and everybody frothing at the mouth to go prosecute Trump, knowing there was no real basis in it. It's all been proven and vindicated. Everything you alleged was false. The FISA warrants all gotten fraudulently and so on. Would you like to apologize to the American people?
There's no new recommendations really in this report for the Justice Department
nothing.
about changing procedures. I mean, there have been a lot of changes at Justice based on the Inspector General's report back in 2019 and others.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all because John Durham has failed to come up with anything new. Most of the report, the parts that I've been able to read in the last few hours, are a regurgitation of findings that were made by the Inspector General. Their attempts to justify two failed prosecutions that he brought against Igor Danchenko and Michael Sussman. There is nothing new here. And what he does present in the report, though, I will give him credit for this. He's entirely consistent with the prejudging of this investigation that he communicated, a month or so into starting it. We knew from the very beginning exactly what John Durham was going to conclude, and that's what we saw today. We knew from the very beginning this was never a legitimate investigation. This was a political errand to exact some sort of retribution on Donald Trump's perceived enemies in the FBI. That's what Mr. Durham has done.
And you stand by the original Russia investigation?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, the mistakes with the Carter Page FISA were regrettable, should never have happened.
Okay.
And had I known about those mistakes in the packages, I never would have signed those applications. And shame on us for not knowing. But that's all business that the IG presented to America in 2019, I think.
It was.
There is absolutely nothing new in this report. And I stand by the investigative decisions that we made to open the investigation first on the Trump campaign and the possibility that the Russians were trying to influence it, and then later on Donald Trump himself. And what did we find out from Special Counsel Mueller's investigation? The Russians did, in fact, influence the campaign. They wanted to. They tried repeated times. They had many, many contacts with the Trump campaign, and several of those people were indicted. So I guess what we were worried about all along actually happened.
Andrew McCabe, I appreciate it.
Andrew McCabe, well done here on CNN. So Andy McCabe is patting himself on the back. He's like, first of all, we got away with everything. No new criminal charges. Nobody on our side got indicted. Our side indicted a bunch of Trump people for a bunch of other reasons. And they're just cobbling together the little minor facts about any Russian. If Trump got an email from a Russian spam bot, they'd say, see, that's Russian influence. And they're just latching onto this stuff, disregarding the fact that we have 300 pages showing that these people were operating outside of the norms of other FBI procedures. We know that Hillary Clinton, when there were issues involving her campaign, she got defense briefings. They called her up. Hey, Hillary, we've got some issues with something coming up. Can you clarify this for us? Yeah, here's what it is. Oh, thanks. With Donald Trump, they said, oh my gosh, we got a spam email and a phone call from Igor Danchenko, who got subsources from Lord knows who gave it to Michael Steele. None of it was corroborated. It got emailed from Australia to somebody in the FBI, and they just opened up an investigation like it's totally legitimate. Like it was a direct phone call from Putin to Trump, and they're like, we're going to take over the world together, because they were salivating. Look, it wasn't a mistake. This Carter Page FISA stuff wasn't a mistake. They're going to all hide behind plausible deniability. We can do better next time. We've made some reforms. It was all intentional. These people know what they're doing. They're not idiots. They knew that they needed to manufacture some allegation against Donald Trump because Hillary Clinton was falling from the rooftop because her email server was cleaned with a cloth, and she needed an alternative. She needed somewhere to point the media to get them off of her. So they created it and they fed it to Jake Sullivan, who posted it on Twitter. They did the same thing in 2020 with the Hunter Biden laptop letter. The intelligence community concocted up an alternative theory and they shoved it down everybody's throat, just like they did in October of 2016. So for Andy McCabe to sit here and tell us all that the FBI is reformed and regrettable and all the things, they're just liars. It's not true at all, because their conduct has not improved from the beginning. But they are all still spiking the ball, very excited about it. Peter Strzok, you know him. He's one of the FBI lovers. This is the new game that we're playing. We have a new battlefield where it's whoever can capture the flag, which in this case is the Justice Department or the FBI or the CIA or the big tech companies. If you can capture the flag, then you can use those positions to go after your opponents and then take them out and then use them in a scoreboard. So that's what Peter Strzok is doing. Arguably one of the most at-fault individuals in this debacle, literally texting with his lover, we're going to stop Trump. She said, will Trump be president? He's like, no, baby, you can trust me. I'm going to rig the whole thing. He's never going to win, or something to that effect. Sends that message over to her. We will stop him. So these people are partisan hacks, but they captured the flag. They got the Justice Department to prosecute Trump's people. And when we had trials for Michael Sussman and Igor Danchenko, nothing there. DC juries acquitted them. Why? Because they were on Team Blue. Sussman was a blue team player. Igor Danchenko was a blue team player. These other people were not. And that's why they get convicted, because they are prosecuted out of DC where the cards are stacked against them. But they're spiking the ball. And this stuff is going to go well with their base. And when every time they say, well, Durham didn't conclude anybody did anything criminal, they're right, because he didn't. At least in his report, as far as we know now. And CNN is also very giddy about this. They're using this talking point that has been delivered to them on a silver platter. It says Special Counsel John Durham's report details his investigation of Hillary Clinton's campaign, and Durham concludes that he did not, all things considered, amount to a provable criminal offense. All right. And so the FBI is like, yeah, no, nothing. We didn't do anything wrong. It worked exactly. We sort of were beta testing it in 2016. We had no idea Trump was coming up. That's version 1.0. So we kind of got that one wrong, but we figured it out for 2020. Version 2.0 was great, and it worked. And we're not changing anything. Are you nuts? Because Donald Trump is running again. And there are hints, or there are discussions out there that there's more coming from Durham, or that there's classified appendices in the report that maybe Congress will review. We know that many people in Congress want to bring in John Durham to speak to Congress. Representative Jim Jordan has already invited him. We know Lindsey Graham has intimated that he wants Durham to come in and testify in front of the Senate. But the question is there anything else going to be coming from this Durham investigation? And it looks like the answer might in fact be no, because this was sent from Merrick Garland, the Attorney General who leads up the Department of Justice. Sent this on May 15th after the Durham report came out. He said, hi, Dick Durbin, Judiciary Committee Chairman over in the United States Senate. Hi, Jim Jordan, Committee on the Judiciary in the House. Also talking to Graham and Jerry Nadler. He says, hey, Congress, pursuant to the law, the same law that John Durham referenced in the opening of his letter, says, I write to inform you, here it is, that Special Counsel John Durham has concluded his investigation. Concluded! In addition to this notification, the special counsel regulations require that I provide you, Congress, with a description and an explanation of any instances in which the Attorney General, me, Merrick Garland, concluded that a proposed action by John Durham was so inappropriate or unwarranted that it should not be pursued. Did John Durham tell Merrick Garland something that Merrick Garland thinks is so inappropriate that it should not be pursued? If that happened, he needed to notify Congress about it so that Congress could be apprised that the special counsel is demanding something. So Durham could have said in this, theoretically, he could have said, well, my recommendation based on this report and based on my 4 years of investigating this is that the problems at the FBI are unfortunately systemic. They go to the top. It started with lower level agents like Peter Strzok, but worked its way all the way up to Andy McCabe. And there was a collusion, a coordinated effort to deny one particular candidate, something that was so rampant throughout all the levels of the agency that there's just no saving it. There's nothing we can do. Therefore, as special counsel, I recommend that Christopher Wray resign immediately. I recommend that prosecutions be initiated against the people who were part of this conspiracy, including Andy McCabe, including Peter Strzok, including Lisa Page, and everybody else. He could have done that, right? A whole list. Boom, 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 boom. Reforms. Anything involving other political candidates has to go through multiple step process or a litany of other solutions. Anything. And Merrick Garland could have taken a look at the list and said, no way. That's inappropriate. That's unwarranted. I don't think we want to do that. We're not defunding the FBI. Are you nuts? We're not asking Christopher Wray to resign. Are you crazy? But if special counsel Durham recommended that, they'd have to apprise Congress of that. So Congress could say, wait a minute, what? He's saying he recommends defund the whole FBI? You're kidding me. But Garland says there were no recommendations that were inappropriate or unwarranted. In fact, there weren't any recommendations really at all. He says there were no such instances during Durham's investigation that were outside of pocket, in other words. Instead, he says on Friday, May 12th, consistent with Attorney General Barr's order, special counsel Durham submitted to me, that was on Friday, so he got to read the whole thing before it became public on Monday. Durham submitted a 306-page unclassified report in a form that will permit public dissemination, and we read through the executive summary of that yesterday. And there's also a 29-page classified appendix. Okay, so this is where we were reserving some judgment. Is there something else that is out there floating around? Is there something that Congress is going to latch into that's going to launch some other investigations? I don't know. There's 29 pages. It's a classified appendix. It's probably just an appendix with names and contact information and other things he doesn't want to put in the crux of the report, but you can leave open the possibility that maybe there's something else there, or maybe this will, initiate something that other entities in Congress can latch onto. In other words, John Durham spent 4 years investigating a bunch of stuff. He lays it all out on display like it's a giant buffet. He says, I can't make the connections here because of my position, because of my role, whatever his justifications are. But he wants Congress, the Oversight Committee. He wants the Judiciary Committee. He wants any other entity or even attorney generals from different states or whatever reason to latch onto this and go dine at the buffet and bring their own charges or bring their own actions. But on the face of the document, we don't see it there. The unclassified report and the classified appendix, it's not an additional recommendation, it's literally just an appendix, are the only reports that Durham submitted to me. There's nothing else out there. Special counsel's unclassified report is attached as full. No additions, no redactions, no modifications. He says arrangement, Merrick Garland says, Congress, we will make arrangements for your review of the classified appendix. And finally, consistent with Attorney General Barr's order, I will disclose this letter, which we're reading now, and deliver it to the public. So that, to me, feels like that's pretty much it. Not sure that there's going to be anything else. Lindsey Graham, sure, they may drag him in front of Congress and have a conversation about this. Okay, but what are they going to do? Jim Jordan, yep, he's going to be very upset about this, ask a lot of questions, and it's going to be great for the American people to see it on display. But is anything going to happen? Don't know. Merrick Garland seems like he's putting a nice bow on it, and there's nothing else to come. But that doesn't mean nothing is happening elsewhere. As we mentioned at the start, with that background, we now see that Marjorie-Taylor Greene submits her articles of impeachment, saying, if special counsel John Durham's not going to deliver any recommendations, that's okay with me. I've seen enough. It's time for Christopher Wray to go. These are the articles of impeachment submitted by Marjorie-Taylor Greene, impeaching Christopher Asher Wray, director of the FBI, for facilitating the development of a federal police force to intimidate, harass, and entrap American citizens who are deemed enemies of the Biden regime. The ultra-MAGA extremist, the domestic home homegrown, violent insurrectionists. There's all sorts of different permutations. It's like those magnets you can put on a refrigerator. Insurrection magnets. Resolved, says Marjorie-Taylor Greene, that Christopher Asher Wray, director of the FBI, is impeached for facilitating the development of a federal police force to harass everybody who's deemed enemies of the Biden regime, saying that these are going to be exhibited to the United States Senate. So we'll see what the House of Representatives does with this. And if they vote to impeach Christopher Wray, then it will go over to the Senate. She writes, articles of impeachment exhibited by the House of Representatives against Christopher Wray are submitted in maintenance and support of its impeachment against him for opposing America. Says the Constitution provides that the House of Representatives shall have the sole power of impeachment, and that the director of the FBI as a civil officer of the United States shall be removed only on impeachment or conviction for other high crimes. Greene says, in his conduct as director of the FBI, in violation of his constitutional oath faithfully to execute the office and to preserve and protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, she says Christopher Wray continues to materially endanger the justice system of the United States and to empower Joe Biden to persecute his political adversaries at will. Article 1 of the impeachment document says, rather than adhering to an oath he took to defend and secure our country and uphold the Constitution when he was sworn in as the director of the FBI August 2nd, 2017, says Director Wray willingly refused to ensure that the laws passed by Congress and signed by the president are faithfully executed, saying that Wray has failed to uphold his oath and has instead overseen a denigration of the principles of our democratic republic by utilizing the FBI as a federal police force to punish or intimidate anyone who questions or opposes the regime. Says Director Wray has become a lackey of the Biden regime, persecuting the enemies of his handlers, including both public and private citizens, saying the FBI has taken unprecedented actions to this end. They conducted an unprecedented raid on the home of the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, on August 8, 2022. FBI whistleblower named Garrett O'Boyle told congressional investigators that the FBI created a terrorist threat tag following the Dobbs Supreme Court decisions in 2022. The whistleblower, O'Boyle, confirmed that the purpose of the tag was to target pro-life individuals. On September 23rd, armed FBI agents in tactical gear raided the home of Mark Houck, a pro-life Catholic and father of 7 young children, allegedly because he obstructed access to an abortion clinic. We also know that former FBI special agent and federal whistleblower Kyle Seraphin obtained a leaked FBI document that targets traditional Latin Mass Catholics. The document was titled Racially or Ethnically Motivated Violent Extremists and Their Interests in Radical Traditionalist Catholics, RTCs, was reported out of the Richmond field office. This leaked document outlined a plan for the FBI to spy on Catholics, particularly those attending Latin Mass, who, according to the document, have white supremacy harbored in their souls, those Catholics. The FBI document indicated intentions to have informants within the Catholic Church. That came on advice of the Southern Poverty Law Center. These people have no shame, they have no limits, they have no borders, they have no decency. In October 2020, a group of men allegedly attempted to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer in the fake Whitmer kidnapping plot. Several of the men were acquitted in their cases, including Brandon Caserta, as the FBI was found to have entrapped them in the scheme. Wonder how that happened, yeah. And most of the members involved in the plot were FBI informants. We covered that case here. A lot of similarities to January 6th. Again, warm up. That was 2016, version 1.0, 2020, version 2.0. Not only has Director Wray persecuted political opponents in an unprecedented and partisan way, but he's also overseen the agency, and his agency has taken actions to shield and protect Biden and his family. A senior FBI official left the agency under a cloud of accusations that he shielded a laptop belonging to the president's son, Robert Hunter Biden, from a criminal probe, protecting him, saying it's unacceptable for Director Wray or any civil officer to exercise his power in a way that targets one political class while doing favors for the other. Wherefore, given the aforementioned unprecedented actions taken by the FBI to subvert America, America and the people deserve a transparent justice system and law enforcement that keeps them safe and doesn't entrap them in serious criminal activity. That's why Christopher Wray merits impeachment. Wray, in his failure to uphold the oath that he has taken, lost the trust of the United States and citizens within it to execute the laws, saying his actions run counter to the steps that employees in the executive branch must take to avoid the appearance of the loss of impartiality, saying Wray has demonstrated he's going to remain a threat to the justice system if allowed to remain in office. He's acted in a manner grossly incompatible with democracy, with self-governance, and the rule of law. Wherefore, Marjorie-Taylor Greene says that Christopher Asher Wray thus warrants impeachment and trial, removal from office, and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. Articles of impeachment against Christopher Wray, documenting the long list, which is just a short list, much more could be added to this, about the FBI malfeasance in operations all around the country. And whether or not this leads to the impeachment of Christopher Wray, it starts the conversation about, so what? We have the Durham Report. We've got volumes of evidence that the FBI is highly problematic. They want to turn around and say the biggest threat to American democracy is white supremacy. It's behavior like this. It is elements within our government that are going to be undermining our democracy from within the government. They need to be held accountable and rooted out. If they're acting in partisan manners, that is undermining the Constitution. It is not equal protection of the law when the FBI is using the law unequally. So this resolution is now going to provide an opportunity for other Republicans who talk all day long to draw a line in the sand. Are they going to join in on this? How are they voting in the House? Because this is a clear action that is being done. Or they can just sit around and complain for the next 2 years while Joe Biden and the FBI continue to concoct another scheme for 2024.